Fingers on the dial, static hums and buzzes, voices cut the silence, truth ain't taking pauses. We the people Wednesday, speak loud, speak clear. Screech, owls calling, red's got your ear.
We the People Wednesday will begin in just a few short minutes, folks. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you still have time to jump over to the VIP Backstage Lounge at riponrabbithole.com. If you are listening on demand, go ahead and fast forward to about the 3-minute mark and you will jump into tonight's live show. Stay tuned, folks. Show starts soon.
Headlights chasing dreams, the Ripon Rabbit Hole ain't as crazy as it seems. Ain't no polished lines, just hearts and fire. We the people Wednesday, speak loud, speak clear. Screech, owls calling, red's got your...
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Chasing dreams, the Ripon Rabbit Hole ain't as crazy as it seems. Ain't no polished lines, just hearts and fire. We the people Wednesday, shout what's real. Screech, owls watching, red's got the wheel. Eyes wave in the static air, freedom's crackle.
Good evening and welcome to We the People Wednesday. It is Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026.
Is it the third?
Yes, because yesterday was Harry's. Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
I am Screech Owl Scott,
And I'm Red.
and we want to thank you, our co-host, for joining us right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio, where your voice will be heard around the world as we discuss hot topics, recent news, and new developments. If you've dialed up We the People Wednesday, congratulations. You can now declare yourself one of the We the People people. If you're listening on Rumble or YouTube, please give We the People a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so that you will receive notifications each and every time we go live. If you want to join the We the People conversation, go to riponrabbithole.com. Click on the 24/7 tab in the taskbar. Scroll down until you see the backstage. Click on the big red Enter Now button. Allow the permissives and join the fun. The backstage lounge is free and always will be. And Red, you don't have to give up your information. I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to provide a password or.
Just like my vote.
Just like my vote. Just come on.
However, if you want to look at electors' signatures, you got to go through hoops, and it takes about 20 minutes.
Right. The backstage lounge is free and always will be. I think I said that already. You will often find We the People deep into the early AM hours. You had me thrown there, Red.
Sorry.
That's riponrabbithole.com. RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. A little bit different tonight, Red. So before we go on, we have to remind people we are dark tomorrow night.
Yes, we are.
But the Ripon Rabbit Hole is
gonna
picking up an extra night.
Yep.
And I think he's going to talk about words really do mean something.
Words matter.
Words matter. So choose your words wisely, and we'll try and do that tonight.
Which I often goof up. Not intentionally, but...
Well, that's all right. Now, normally, folks, as you know, if you're a regular listener to We the People Wednesday, normally we open up the mics and allow people to air their grievances and ask questions and offer their opinions. Tonight, we're going to take a step back, more like a Tin Hat Thursday kind of a show where We've got a very special guest, and if you have a question for her, if you can put it in the chat,
And I'll be watching the chat.
we'll try and address them if we, time permitting. But this subject matter is too important to be consumed by a lot of questions from our audience. So we'll try and get to as many as we can.
Absolutely.
But we're going to ask everybody to keep themselves muted tonight, and put your questions in the chat.
Yep, just type them in the chat, and I'll keep my eye on it.
Anything else we have to clean up? We had a good show last night. We celebrated Harry Waite's victory yesterday, and
yes, we did.
Today we're back at it now.
It is a victory, but I want to point out real quick before we start. I did see an article about Judge Dugan, I think her name is Dugan, from Milwaukee, that was protecting the illegal immigrant. A federal judge may vacate her, the verdict's sentence, or verdict on, well, you know what I mean. Why didn't the judge in Harry Waite's case do the same?
Well, he didn't have it.
That would have been a win.
That's
a huge,
right,
huge win.
But we celebrate what we had. Harry didn't go to jail.
Exactly.
And now we start the fight to exonerate completely and restore Harry's right to vote and to possess firearms and anything he wants to do as a non-convicted. But we want him to be convicted.
He will no longer have the word felon attached to his name. Let's put it that way.
Right. So the fight continued. The fight started this morning after we celebrated that victory.
Exactly.
And now tonight we have a big subject, and folks.
And what Karen's got to bring to you tonight, in my opinion, will tie into a lot of all of what Harry went through.
So just to give you a little bit of a background, we met our very special guest, tonight's very special guest. We met her 4 years ago, a little more than 4 years ago, actually, because she ran for Attorney General in 22, and we supported that campaign.
But we met her before that.
Right, so 5 years maybe.
Something like that.
And she's been in the fight with COVID, and she ran for Attorney General, and she is the founder of the Amos Center for Liberty and Justice. And she is a bulldog, and she's a friend of the network. She's been on, I think she was on with Jerry when she was on the last time, or was she on with AJ?
I think it was AJ.
In any event, she's a longtime friend of the Ripon Rabbit Hole. Please, and she's going to be talking about the Muslim Brotherhood, and I heard her talk briefly, like just 10 or 15 minutes about this, and it really showed how underinformed I was regarding the Muslim Brotherhood, and when we heard Karen speaking at that point, we thought we had to bring her on and give her the opportunity to talk for an hour and let our listeners, give them a basic understanding of what we're facing. So without further ado, please give a warm Tin Hat Thursday welcome to our very special guest, Karen Mueller. Karen, can you hear us?
She's got her microphone on.
We put Karen to sleep.
Uh-oh. Well, let's see. Her microphone is on. She may have to refresh. If you can hear us, refresh.
Karen, we may have to have you step out and pop back in if you can hear us. It looks like your microphone is on, and we still can't hear you if you're talking. Oh, she stepped out, so...
Okay. There she is. She's back.
Karen, can you hear us?
Uh-oh.
Let's see. Corey's in the backstage. Corey, can you open up your mic and just say hello to everybody to make sure that we don't have an issue with that I'm not aware of? Or Michelle?
Hello.
Oh, there's Harry.
Okay, so we can hear Harry, so his microphone is working.
Thank you,
so
Harry.
It must be something on. We know that we're dialed in okay. Karen, I'm not sure what's going on.
You might have to pop out, like close the whole browser and then come back in.
So while we're waiting to see if Karen can get through her technical difficulties, she is with Screech Scott tonight. So It would only be
Yeah.
fitting that somebody would have technical difficulties.
Oh, I thought I heard her.
I thought I did too. We need some Jeopardy music or something like that as we're waiting for.
I'm just kidding.
Well, this would be a shame,
Oh,
Red.
come on. You know what? This always happens when we have a very important show on like this.
Maybe you could call her on my phone, and we could hold my phone. I don't know if that would work. It might.
We can try, but remember we get
might
feedback.
get feedback. We can. Why don't you try it once and see?
Okay.
Karen, we're going to try giving you a call and see if we can patch you in through my phone, because clearly we're having some audio issues, and this, we're not going to give up too easily, because this is far too important for our listeners to.
Oh.
Can you hear?
Okay. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
we can hear you now.
Okay.
We've got a little bit of
I
an.
was on my computer.
Okay, now we can hear you loud and clear, Karen.
Okay, what I did is I went through the link that you sent me on the phone. I've evidently got problems on my microphone on my computer. Something was wrong. So
Well,
anyway, I am on my phone now.
so you're on your mobile device, and everybody can hear you loud and clear. Were you able to hear us, Karen, when we were?
I can hear you. I'm trying to find a way to get my volume up so I can hear. But go ahead for right now.
All right, so well, I had introduced you as my very special guest, Karen. We go back 5 years now. Hard to believe that we go back that far, and it's a pleasure to have you on with us for this special edition of We the People Wednesday.
Absolutely, because I know what we learned briefly at your event in Chippewa Falls. It was very startling to me, and I thought I knew a little bit more about it, but I was totally caught off guard. So I'm looking forward to learning more.
So I think, Karen, because this is something that we're not very knowledgeable about. I mean, I read through some of the things that you sent me, and we saw your 10-minute presentation in Chippewa Falls, like Jenny said. But maybe you can. You've been at this for 10 years, right? The Muslim Brotherhood, or longer?
Yes, I started talking about it, I believe, back in 2017. So it's been almost 10 years, which is surprising. Time flies. And yes, I've known you for over 5 years now. And thank you for that introduction. I hope I can learn even part of your very gracious statements tonight.
Well,
So do you want me to just kind of start talking
yeah,
about it?
I think you can, and we're losing your volume just a little bit. I don't know if you're on speakerphone or if you're away from your phone a little.
I am on speakerphone. Does this help?
That helps. That helps a great deal. And we don't want, and I don't mean to make it difficult on you, but we want people to be able to hear what you're bringing tonight.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, I'm very sorry that it's not working on my computer because the sound would be much better if it was somehow turned on, and somewhere it's turned off. So anyway, I apologize very much for that.
Oh,
That's okay.
that's all right.
Yeah. So in terms of, I started listening to some people over 10 years ago, probably 2017. I learned from various people. Shahram Hadian is one gentleman. He's a former Muslim from Iran, and he came to this country with his family, and he became a Christian, and he is now a pastor. So he is one. There's another gentleman, John Guandalo, and he had a organization for a number of years called Understanding the Threat, which is now here. John Guandolo is a very important person to keep track of and what he is saying. There is Frank Gaffney, another important gentleman who has continually put out the truth. Bridget Gabriel of Act One. These are patriots. These are true patriots who have gone around the country over the years. There's one special gentleman that really stands out to me, and his name was Phil Haney. And a number of years ago, well, before the pandemic, uh, I had set up a couple of different times where we brought some of these people in to talk. And John Guandolo and Phil Haney and Sharam Hadian were ones that we brought into like Western Wisconsin uh, to talk about the issue of the Muslim Brotherhood. And Phil Haney was a very important person. And what he had done was, first of all, he was on the ground floor of the, um, this would be the Department of Homeland Security. So after 2011, the Department of Homeland Security was founded, and he was with the anti-terrorism unit. He was gathering intel. And as the story goes, he ended up writing a book, and it was called See Something, Say Nothing. And the reason he wrote that book is because um, it was probably in 2004, 2005, he saw a change in what was still a very young organization. And what happened is every time he brought intel to his superiors, he was investigated. And this went on and on. He had claimed that he could have stopped the San Francisco attack, and also, I think it was the Pulse nightclub attack in Florida. And so he was under a lot of pressure. But anyway, he went on the road and was talking about this. Sadly, he was, I think a number of his supporters believe that he was killed. He was on the verge of getting married, remarried again. He was an older gentleman, and he was, it seemed that it wasn't a suicide and that he was in fact killed. And he had a lot of information um, to give to people. So that tells you what we're dealing with here to some extent, although we can't say exactly what happened with him. I would urge people to get his book and to read what he had to say about what went on at the Department of Homeland Security back when he was there. And so, like, I named some other people. So anyway, that's kind of how I heard about it. I started getting interested in it. And then I myself started talking about it to local groups, to groups within the state. I talked to a lot of different women's groups in particular, just because they're the ones that tended to invite me. And to come full circle, I have to tell you that one of those women's groups this past year, probably 6 months ago, some of the members called me, and I had spoken down in the southeast part of Wisconsin back in 2018. And they called me and they said, Karen, you need to come and talk to us again, because what you talked about is actually going on in Milwaukee. And they told me what it was, and that there were various groups which appeared to be part of the Muslim Brotherhood, were buying up land, were buying up businesses in a number of suburban counties or suburbs of Milwaukee. And so they thought I should come in and talk to them. And I said, this is going to take a lot more than me coming and talking about what is going on. It's the same thing that has been going on in Texas. I don't know if any of you have heard too much about what is going on in Texas. I think you all know from the news that the mayor of New York, 25 years after 9/11, is Islamist communist or something close to that. I don't want to get that wrong, but that is my understanding. And so it's a whole new day in New York. And the idea that somebody that let's just say that there were 19 people on the planes on 9/11 that brought down the towers, and 25 years later, somebody with the same ideology, at least in thought and principle, is now the mayor of that city. And so we will see how that develops. I'm not making any comment or making any accusations regarding Mendami's penchants towards violence or anything like that. But I think that it would be not, I think that it's important to recognize that after 25 years, we have come somewhat full circle when you consider that the terrorist attacks apparently were religious, politically driven. And I want to make that clear when I talk about uh, what I am talking about tonight is the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is a political organization, and it is also has as its front a religion. There's a lot of people out there today that say that it is not a religion, and therefore we shouldn't treat it as a religion. I can't subscribe to that thought simply because our own Constitution gives wide latitude towards what is a religion and what isn't a religion. And so I can't go there, and I think that it's wise not to make that simple argument that, well, it's not a religion anyway. What is important is to understand it's not only a religion and a religion that many people just want to quietly live out their faith, but it is also a political ideology and a political organization for many hardcore Islamists. And you need to understand that to understand what is not only going on in this country, but what has been going on in Europe. If I told you that Europe is gone, you would probably go, well, you're out of your mind. Of course, it's not gone, it's there. What I am talking about is the political apparatuses have been taken over. There has been widespread immigration for well over 20 years, maybe closer to 30, in the United Kingdom. And they are not a majority in the country, but they have the controls of power. And the reason they're able to do that is because um, they form alliances. You could call it the red green axis, and they line up with the Marxists and the communists, and they all work together. The communists and Islamists and Marxists. And we're seeing the same thing in our country, and uh, you should be concerned about that. What I have seen over the years, as I have watched this play out, is the Marxists and the communists tend to take the lead, particularly the Marxists and other groups like BLM, Black Lives Matter, and also Antifa. And they also combine that with the interfaith alliances. And they work in that way. But behind all of that is the Islamists. And they very much have been in the background up until recent years. But they have now stepped out, and they are now more out in the front. I think before I go any further, I wanted to mention Texas because what has been going on in Texas is they are in the process of trying to create Muslim-only cities. Well, you can imagine a only cities would mean under Sharia law that the equal protection clause and the due process clause, and frankly, the First Amendment clause would no longer apply because under Sharia law, you can't have any other religion except Islam, and women do not have equal rights, and due process rights are a thing that is doled out to some people, but certainly not to unbelievers. And so there's a lot here to unpack. But before I go any further, I don't want people to just go, yeah, she's just talking and blathering on about this, and it's not important. What is important to know is that this isn't just my words. This is words that have come from the Muslim Brotherhood. And Scott, I was wondering, can you share the explanatory memorandum link that I sent you?
The explanatory memorandum.
Well, I don't have 38 pages downloaded that I can share it with you or share it with the audience.
Like uploaded
Okay.
into the program, but we can get
But
that to people if they just ask us, email us at screechowlscott@gmail.com, and we can forward that to them.
okay, well, let me tell you about this document because this is in their own words, the Muslim Brotherhood. This is not my words. The document was actually came to light in 2004. So again, it's after 9/11, and there was a couple that were found taking pictures of the support structures of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, and they were detained, and there was a uh, warrant that was obtained for their house. And what they found, they had a sub basement, and they found a treasure trove of documents that apparently came from the Muslim Brotherhood. The man and the woman who they had detained were very deep into the Muslim Brotherhood and very high up. And so one of the documents that was recovered is a document called an explanatory memorandum on the general strategic goal for the group in North America. So this document was written in 1991, and yet it was used in 2007 in what's called the Holy Land Foundation trials in the Northern District, Federal District of Texas. And the reason that it was used there was because this document outlined what is called civilization jihad. And part of that process was finding money and funding Hamas. And I'm just going to read a short excerpt from the explanatory memorandum on page 4. And it says, the process of settlement is a civilization jihadist process with all that the word means. The Ikhwan, which is the Muslim Brotherhood in their own language, must understand that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within and sabotaging its miserable house by their hands and the hands of the believers, so that it is eliminated and God's religion is made victorious over all other religions. And the explanatory memo goes on for, I think it's over 20 pages. And it's an outline of their plan. I guess it's closer to 30 pages. And it's an outline. It gives Muslim Brother operatives in the country a plan for how they should proceed as they in their own words, colonize America. And this started in earnest back in 1965 when the Muslim Brotherhood started a student organization, the MSA, on American college campuses. And so it's been with us for a good part of my life. It's probably been here longer for a number of you people. So,
That's incredible to me, Karen, that you said 1965, I think you said.
yes,
I was 4 years old when this began, and little did any of us know that this was taking place.
yeah, I was 11.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and very much the it's the Muslim. Uh, I said MSA. I have to Muslim Students Association. And so another part of this document, I want to urge each of you to get a copy of this document. I've given out hundreds of these in the talks that I've given, and it's critical that people go, oh, this isn't just you saying stuff, this is their words. And that's what gives it great um, authority. Not only that, but the fact that it was used successfully in the Holy Land Foundation trials. There are people, members of the Muslim Brotherhood, that went to prison. In fact, there's some that are still in prison for raising money for Hamas through the Holy Land Foundation trial, or through the Holy Land Foundation Fund. And in addition to that, you've probably heard of an organization called CARE. And CARE is an organization that today touts itself as the Council for American Islamic Relations. And they consider themselves the Muslim Civil Rights Organization. Now, this organization was created in 1995. So it came into being after this document was created. But one thing that's very important is when you look at the back of this document, you get to the end, you'll see 2 pages of organizations. And these organizations existed at the time that this document was created. There is more than double that number of Muslim organizations in the country right now than was when this document was written. One thing I'm trying to think of how I could get you to get your hands on this now. If you, I believe, Google this, if you Google right now, if you can, the Center for Security Policy, that's Frank Gaffney's website. And if you go there and then Google explanatory or search for um, uh, the explanatory memo within his website, you can get a free copy of this and download it. And I would urge you to later on read through this, study it, look at the organizations that are in the back, study their plan. This was 1991. And so there's a number of you who are probably going, yeah, Karen, but that's an old document. All right. I just want to make sure that you can still hear me, Scott, right?
Yes, we can hear you. And before you go on, Karen, anybody that's listening, if you either put your email in the chat or you send an email to screechowlscott@gmail.com, we can provide the electronic copy of this document that Karen is talking about, and we will send it to anybody who requests it.
And Corey's asking, what was that website again? Center for Security, and I didn't catch the rest.
I think it's a Center for Security Policy.
Thank you.
Actually, the website might be securefreedom.org. But if securefreedom.org doesn't do it, then just Google the Center for Security Policy.
Okay, I'm writing that
But
down.
then when you get to the website, you have to do a search for the explanatory memo, but it should come up. And you want to print that off.
It is 38 pages long, but it's well worth
35.
whatever 35 pages long. It's well worth it. And
Yep,
we'll
and
share
it
it with
gives
anybody.
you a little history on it. So anyway, back to what I was talking about with CARE, the Council for American Islamic Relations, that was created in 1995. They were considered unindicted co-conspirators of the Holy Land Foundation trials. So they were never indicted. Later on, but like I said, there were indictments. There are people that are still in prison over that fundraising for Hamas. And CARE over the years has tried to get that that erased, so to speak, legally. And the judge had said that no, there was more than enough evidence to indict them. And they have never been able to shake that characterization that they were an unindicted co-conspirator. So that's important, that federal case. And you may want to learn more about that. But that goes back to, again, 2000 and between 2004 and 2008, there was a lot going on. It was after 9/11. And I already told you about Phil Haney and the changes that took place and more changes. This was, I believe, during the George Bush administration, the younger. But as we got into, I believe, Barack Obama's administration, everything was shut down and there were no more trials. There was no more looking into any of this. And that's the way it's been for years, except that these gentlemen, John Guandolo, Phil Haney, and Bridget Gabriel, have continued to tour the country and to talk about these issues, which are extremely important. And again, all you have to do is look at Europe. Europe is gone. The United Kingdom has been taken over by the Islamists. They are in control. France is gone. Germany is gone. You still see the country. You can still even see the tourist sites. But in terms of the control, for instance, in the United Kingdom, they've had 20 years, over 20 years of rape gangs that have gone on, that have um, people of Mideastern descent, primarily with connections to the Muslim Brotherhood, have freely raped young women in England. And the police, if you file a report, a father or a son tries to defend their loved ones, they will end up in jail. It is unbelievably messed up. And as you know, we fought a revolution, we fought a war 250 years ago. What people tend to forget is England and Europe, they never did have a constitution. And so we tend to think of them as, yep, they're on the same plane, but they're not. They're not there because they never had a constitution. We fought a revolutionary war. And as you all know, we are now at 250 years, less than a month away from the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. And then we fought that war for freedom against England, against Great Britain. And so it is quite a coincidence, or it's not a coincidence at all, that we are now in the position of needing to fight for our freedom. But most people in this country are silent, they're in the dark, and I think that is planned. because to try to get information out is to be censored, even in this country. We went through that with COVID. When I was trying to get information out about COVID, I was censored. It is very difficult to still get the information out there. Although I think what the pushback from the censorship of COVID has probably worked against them, because people, I think, are more freely talking about this, and they need to. You need to educate yourselves. You need to educate yourselves quickly, and using good, solid sources, and not be afraid if somebody wants to call you an Islamophobe. That's what people are afraid of. That's what politicians are afraid of. And what I say is, get over it. I've been in this battle for again, probably 9 or 10 years, talking about it. So what? Somebody wants to call you a name. On top of it, it's kind of silly when you consider a phobia is something that you're afraid of that really isn't there, right?
Right.
So, when it's really there, they're the ones that are in the wrong when they call you an Islamophobe. If there's a real threat, then you should be concerned. And so when you look at this document that I talked about, you can go, okay, Karen, so yep, that was 1991, and today is 2026. So what's your problem? And I would say, yeah, I would have a serious problem if it was an old threat. But it's not an old threat. In fact, the leader of CARE, his name is Niwad Awad. He has been in control of CARE for a number of years. And I believe it was the end of 2025, he was at an ISNA conference. ISNA stands for the Islamic Society of North America. And he spoke very openly and candidly about what needed to happen next. And I'm wondering, Scott, do you have the ability to show that?
That one I absolutely do, and I've watched it a couple times already, Karen. And if you're ready, I will play that for you now. And this was when was this speech given again, Karen?
I believe it was. I don't have the month, but it was in 2025, I believe. It was towards the end of last year.
Okay, and I
And it
can't.
was at the Islamic Society of North America's conference. And it's between 5 and 6 minutes long. I would urge you to listen carefully to this man's words.
All right, so we'll
He's
play.
a powerful man in the Muslim Brotherhood's world in America.
All right, so we'll watch that. So I'm going to encourage everybody to listen very closely, and when we come back, Karen can give her thoughts on this video and what it means for our country's future.
That for now, for the longer term, I have to be frank with you. The Muslim community is overrepresented in technology, in IT, in medicine, in engineering, alhamdulillah. The Muslim community is overrepresented in businesses. But brothers and sisters, the Muslim community is underrepresented in the media, in the legal profession, in filmmaking, in political science, and in history teaching in the United States. Because of this, the image of Islam has been under attack for generations. It has led to Islamophobia, not only in the attitudes of people, but in policies of our government at home and abroad. Look at the relationship between America and the Muslim world. It is not in the right place. And American Muslims have to step in and change that relationship. But we cannot do it only in the streets. We have to be in the halls of Congress. We have to be in the newsrooms. We have to be in the classrooms. We have to be in the books. And we have to be in the courts and in the courts of public opinion. To do that, we have to be organized. and we have to be good planners, because this is really the essence of our faith. So here's the homework. We have 4,000 mosques nationwide. I urge every mosque, and take this message to your board of directors of the mosques and your imams. Every mosque should have a special fund for scholarship. 5 scholarships every year. 1 scholarship for journalism, another one for filmmaking, a 3rd one for law, a 4th one for political science, a 5th one for history and humanities. If we start in 2025, 4 years from now, we are going to have how many? 4,000 new attorneys for the Muslim community, 4,000 new filmmakers, 4,000 journalists, 4,000 students of political science, and 4,000 potential teachers of history. In 15 years from now, if we are persistent, we will end up with 50,000 more attorneys for the Muslim community, 50,000 journalists, 50,000 filmmakers, 50,000 political commentators, and 50,000 teachers of history and humanity. And therefore, we can tell our story about Islam. We can represent and defend not only American Muslims, but every person who needs our help, because that's how we stand up for justice. And these lawyers most likely are the most qualified people to run for office, because they are lawmakers. Lawmaking is about making laws. Today, we have 43 state delegates in the United States who are Muslim. If they want to run for Congress in the next 2 or 4 or 6 years, they can. We may end up, if we are organized, we may end up with about 50 members of Congress in the next 6 years, if we only plan and put our money where our mouth and our minds are. So brothers and sisters, there you go. We as a community need to grow vertically, not just horizontally. We need not just to expand more mosques here and there, when we can expand our future and our political influence here at home to make sure that America lives up to its principles, to fight injustice against people of color, and to fight injustice around the globe. And that's really the essence of dismantling the system of injustice, is to replace it with the people of goodwill, with the people who represent the Prophet ﷺ, being a mercy to mankind. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who follow the guidance and hear it, believe it, and implement it. So as you go home, be a committee of one. Don't wait for institutions to act. Take action. Be the inspiration, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring you individually. Be ready to answer, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help us to help not only the people of Palestine, but the people of India, the people of Kashmir, the people of Yemen, the people of Syria, and here, our people in their broken neighborhoods, in the jail system, in the school system, people who are in the streets, looking for guidance, for help, for the mercy of people. We have a lot of work, and inshallah, a lot of reward to gain. Assalamu alaikum.
Now, did people actually catch on to what that man was saying?
So Karen, when we hear him talk about adding in 5 years, 1,000 each of those career paths, and 15 years, that number would be 50,000. What does that mean for our country, Karen?
That means our Constitution is gone. By the
Can you
time they have 50,000 attorneys, who have become legislators, who have become lawyers, who have become judges. What that means is they will have reinterpreted our Constitution to destroy it. And everything will hinge on destroying the true meaning of religious freedom. You know, you all can go back to our founding 250 years ago, and one of the most important rights that the founders wanted to secure was religious freedom, because they had fled that tyranny in Europe, and they wanted to make sure that they had freedom of conscience, freedom of thought, freedom of speech. And so that is our First Amendment in the Bill of Rights. And it is the most important, and it is the way in which the Muslim Brotherhood intends to destroy it. So what I'm saying is they intend to hide behind their religion. Whenever anybody says anything about them, they will say, well, you're an Islamophobe and we have a right to our religion. Even though it is not just a religion, they also have the political component wrapped into it. And then what they intend to do is to gain power through the courts, through the legal means, and then they will install Sharia law. And Sharia is the opposite of our First Amendment. Sharia requires compliance to worship Allah. And if you don't worship Allah, you can either pay what they call jizya, or you can be killed, or whatever. But that is what happens in countries where the majority are Muslim. It is going on right now in Nigeria. Christians are being killed, not just killed, butchered, raped, burned, tortured, whatever. And it goes on in any country where the Muslim Brotherhood is in control. You will either comply or you will die.
You know,
And so this is probably the biggest challenge that the Islamists have ever faced, because every other country, like I've talked about in Great Britain, that's really a piece of cake because they never had a First Amendment. They thought they had freedom of speech, but it was really at the pleasure of Parliament. And that is no longer the case. And so everything in terms of freedom in Europe was an illusion. We have more than an illusion, but what it requires is the people to stand up. It requires the people to understand how to fight this. And again, you can't fight it by saying, oh, no, you can't have your religion. Of course they can have their religion. They just can't have a set of laws, Sharia laws, that violate our Constitution. And that's why you may hate me for saying this, but we need an army of attorneys and judges and legislators to fight this. Right now, we have just about nobody that is standing up and fighting this, that understands this. We have a couple of people we have Greg Abbott in Texas, who recently came out and designated properly the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, because it is. Senator Ted Cruz has been putting forth that amendment or that legislation for over 10 years in the Congress, and he can never get enough support. And DeSantis just did this in Florida and has declared the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. Both of these two states have severe problems already, and they are trying to fight back. The problem is because they were executive orders, they're only going to last as long as those two men are in office. And then it can revert back to whatever the next governor says. We need something like this in Wisconsin, but we need it to come out of the legislature. And then we need it to be signed by a governor. And you look at what we're dealing with right now, it looks just about impossible. It's
Right.
going
And
to take a lot of work, and it's going to take people, it's going to take a small army of people talking about this in an intelligent way, in a way where they can convince people. A big part of it comes from the explanatory memo, as I've laid out to you, because you can read through this. In fact, you need to read through this when we're done, and now and use that together with what you just heard the leader of CARE tell you. Now, the explanatory memo, 1991, what Niwad Awad said less than a year ago.
Oh, wow.
So basically, he brought forward the plan that was laid out in quite a bit of detail in the explanatory memo. So I would urge you to study those.
And we have to find a way to get this for our legislators to understand what is happening. I would dare to bet most of the 99 assembly reps in Wisconsin know very little about this, Karen.
That's true. And even if you do find them, they there's a problem with spines in our legislature.
That's
No,
true.
no doubt.
There's a lack of it.
Absolutely.
And so we are facing an existential threat in this country. And if you doubt it, just look to Europe. If you, another way that you can look at this is the type of civilization jihad that the Muslim Brotherhood is putting forth is really one of historical proportions. This has been going on, frankly, since the first century after the death of Christ. Most of the church, I don't know if you're all Christians, but the early church was mainly found in Turkey at the time. And as the Muslims at that point came out of the Mid East, they came into Turkey. They destroyed the early church there, and history will say they tried again in to go up into Europe, and they were stopped that was in the 800s. And then there was another attack in the 1600s, and that is known as the Gates of Vienna. I would urge you to go back and educate yourself, inform yourself on the history. Christians today, they get told, well, you were the Crusaders, you were the bad guys. You have to look at the whole picture. You have to look at the butchery that has taken place over the past 2,000 years. And now we are looking at America, the place that has held a place of say you're a Christian or not, of success and freedom. And that is the ultimate difference. And you can look at what Nihad Awad said, and you can pick out the lies. You can pick out the things he said that were very, very slick and very, very untrue. One of the things you need to know is that when an Islamist talks about justice and peace, you might start, and this has to do with learning about what the interfaith movement has done, and they did quite a bit of this 8 to 10 years ago in the state of Wisconsin. And they will talk about, well, we're the same people, we worship the same, we want the same things, justice and peace. What you need to know, the big takeaway, is that their definition of justice and peace are different than yours. You need to let that sink in, what I'm about to say, because justice and peace for an Islamist is when everybody worships Allah. That is what he is talking about. But he's not telling you that. He's being deceitful. He's not being honest. And that's how they operate.
So
So,
Karen, the explanatory memorandum, you said that came out in 91, or that was revealed in 91. And
well, it was it was written in 91. It was discovered in 2004.
okay, I stand corrected. Then it was written in
Yep.
1991. Now,
Yep.
Nihad Awad spoke a year ago. And he spoke basically what this plan was. Is it safe to say that they've accelerated their plans?
I think they're right on time. I don't really believe too much in coincidences. We're coming up on 250 years of freedom. What an amazing victory for them if the year that we're supposed to celebrate 250 years of freedom is in fact the year that we go down. It's going to be 25 years since there's some different religions that are really into mockery and really into mm, I've at a loss for words right now. It would be kind of like you could have a victory if the victory is very much on a sacred day of the enemy, then that makes the victory all the more delicious, all the more special.
Absolutely.
And
Does that make any sense to you?
yes,
It
it
does.
does. One of the
Okay.
comments early on when you started talking, somebody, Catherine had said, how did we get to like 20 mosques,
Over 20 mosques.
over 20 mosques without anybody really paying attention? And then you hear Nahad Awad talking about these scholarship funds and how every mosque has to, and every time they build a mosque, those numbers change that he's talking about. He talked about 4,000, and they keep building them. That number keeps changing now.
Absolutely.
Yes. So what does that tell you about the state of the Christian church? You've got Niwad Awad putting out a call to every mosque in this country, asking them to give scholarships so that they can basically educate new journalists who will tilt the news, and especially attorneys who will become jurists and who will eventually become Supreme Court justices, and they will become legislators. And they have now dedicated themselves to every mosque doing at least one scholarship. They've set that out as a goal, as a mission. What church does that?
None that I know of.
No, they're not even close to awake. And so the first stop is with the churches, and that will be a huge task because the interfaith groups have done such a good job. I can tell you one instance, and this was again back in 2018. I don't know if you've ever heard of let me see, Brannon House. He's with Worldview Weekends. I don't know if you remember him.
I
He's a
do.
Christian. You do?
Yes.
Okay. So this goes back to 2018. Boy, has time flown because it seems for me to be just yesterday. Anyway, Brannon House set up 4 different events three in Wisconsin. One was going to be in La Crosse, one in Pewaukee, and one was going to be in Green Bay. And he was bringing in John Guandalo, he was bringing in Chris Gobbets, Phil Haney, and Sharam Hadian. They were coming into Wisconsin to talk about the threat. And you've never heard of this, have you?
No.
No.
The reason you haven't heard of it is because the Interfaith Alliance got busy and they worked with BLM, and they also worked with um, let's see, what did I say? BLM and Antifa, and they threatened each of the venues. They threatened the venues in Green Bay, Pewaukee, and La Crosse. I was actually on the way down to La Crosse when I got a call from Sharam saying that it had been canceled. And so I did a lot of um, the research on what had happened. And anyway, yeah, it was they got organized very quickly and they shut them down. There was also supposed to be one in Ames, Iowa, and one in um, the Twin Cities. And the one in Twin Cities was canceled. The three in Wisconsin were canceled. The only one that actually went on was in Ames, Iowa. And so that ended it. And in terms of the ability to bring most of those people back here. Sharam Hadian has been back here, as he's also been in Minnesota a number of times. If you get the opportunity to hear him, you need to hear his story. Very important because, as I mentioned, his dad was in the Iranian army before 1979, and he brought his family to this country um, uh, before the Shah was taken over by Khomeini. See, I remember all this because I was old enough to remember all of it. You guys are younger. Um, and so, very important um, to know that uh, Sharam came to this country. He tells the story of how he was a young college woman proselytized to him. And he said he became very, very angry because he's a Muslim. And he set about to prove that what she had said was a bunch of lies. And in the end, he found the truth. That's his story. And he became a pastor. And to this day, he is out there talking about the Muslim Brotherhood. He is now talking about what is going on in Iran. And so there's a lot of interesting things and coincidences
And Karen,
or not that are going on even today.
Karen,
But
what was his name?
Sharam Hadian, actually, he was in the state just a couple of weeks ago. I saw him again, and I believe that there is something that's coming up. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but um, um, look for an event in the fall, and I would urge people to try
Okay. Well,
to
it,
to get.
after I spoke to you about coming on tonight to talk about this, I noticed that Bill Savage, the editor of the Wisconsin Conservative Digest, had put out there that there's several groups in southeastern Wisconsin, and probably related to some of the things that I know you've spoken to women's groups down there.
Yes,
And Bill said, we need to talk more about the Muslim Brotherhood. So I hope that some of those people get uh, a hold of this, you being on this show to talk about this.
We'll get it
yeah.
to. We'll
So
get it to him.
it was in fact the Republican women that had called me. I used to go around and talk to the Republican women in different groups around the state, and they're the ones that called me a few months ago and wanted me to come and talk again. But again, this is really the time for talking is really getting late. It's real late in the day here. People need to educate themselves. And I know talking helps, but we're out of time. I've been doing this for almost 10 years, and we're not in real good shape here anywhere. What I will say is DeSantis has tried, And Greg Abbott has tried, but again, I told you that it really needs to go through the legislature. So we need the light bulb to come on at the legislature. We need a governor who will take action. I know our candidates. I know Tom Tiffany helped us up here. That was 3 years ago when the refugee resettlement business was going on in our own county. We put a pause on it, but I don't know if that would happen again without people being educated. If people don't understand the threat, which is what John Guandalo's messaging always was, you miss it because most people tend to go, well, live and let live. They have their religion, we have ours. And they certainly are entitled to, and I don't want anybody to walk away from this phone call and go, she hates Muslims and she doesn't want them to practice their faith. If they want to worship Allah all day long, they have every right to do that. What they don't have a right to do is to bring in a law, Sharia, which violates our Constitution in multiple ways. And it's very important that you talk about it like that. Because if
Absolutely.
you don't, you will fall into your own trap.
Well, I know they tried their hardest to do it up in Barron County in the
Mm-hmm.
Muslim community.
Right.
And I just read something not long ago actually about how they're trying to get us to not be able to ring our church bells anymore. But at the same time, they want to put up their prayer towers. And I'm like, no,
Well,
keep that
and
over in your
and
country.
yep. So there's a problem, because okay, when you look at that, you go, all right. So they want to have. They already have the call of prayer 5 times a day in Minneapolis, in the streets of Minneapolis. If that bothers you, then what do you do with that? Well, you have to look at the noise ordinance. Okay. So that's how you would handle something like that
Good
because
point.
people are entitled to their religion. But does it violate a noise ordinance? Is it something? But if it violates a noise ordinance, then what happens with the church bells?
Then they would probably go away as well.
Well, there's not too many church bells
Yeah, we don't
ringing
hear them
anyway,
too
as far
often.
as
Yeah.
I can see,
Yeah,
No, you're right.
we barely
or
ever hear
hear.
them.
So you have to start thinking like a constitutional lawyer. You have to look at it in terms of what are they going to come back with.
Okay.
And so do I want the call to prayer? Nope, I really don't. And it's in the streets and it's obstructing traffic. So there are other ways of dealing with that issue aside from the noise ordinance. And like I said, it's like obstructing traffic.
Mm-hmm.
If Christians went out in the streets and sang all their worship songs and did that 5 times a day, there might be an issue too. So there are ways to fight this, but you still have to have judges willing to hear the case. You have to have lawyers willing to bring the cases. And we have just about nobody left. I'm 71. So, you know,
And
we've got a long way to go. And
a short time to get there, it sounds like, Karen.
It very much, very much. If you're a person of faith, I'm looking for Jesus to come. But in the meantime, I go, what am I supposed to be doing? And so, what's another thing people could do? Christian churches should be out with their pamphlets saying Jesus saves. We still, in this country, um, don't have blasphemy laws. They do in England. You would never say to a Muslim, Jesus saves.
Wow.
You would never say anything positive about Jesus in these countries now, lest you end up in jail for harassing a Muslim. So there are things that are kept quiet. There are Sharia courts and that are in place in Texas, of all places in Texas.
Wow.
Why is Texas important? Why is New York important? Because if they take those, it signals to the rest of the country that you are done.
Absolutely.
Why have they taken over Minneapolis? Well, it's the Midwest. That's a big, you know,
Sure.
Have they taken over Chicago?
no, I don't think they've taken
Not
over.
yet.
There's certainly, um, I don't hear that. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Um, but
Just not that
I
we
don't
hear.
hear it to the extent of other places.
Okay.
But the fact that when I was called a few months ago, and what I was told is, Karen, what you used to talk about is happening. And what they were specifically saying is that blocks of businesses were being bought up. Land is being bought up. What that tells me is they're trying to set up an enclave, a Muslim only community. That they cannot do under our Constitution. But they can do it as long as people are quiet.
Right.
And they have been trying to stop that in Texas. Imagine going to any city USA and being told at the border of, or at the city limits, that you can't come in, or you have to come in and pay a jizya tax because you're a non-believer. Imagine that in the United States of America.
It's hard for me to wrap my head around the things you're saying, Karen. It really is.
Absolutely.
That
You know,
that's
Yes.
happening right here.
and last night, well, last night and last week, we all say the upcoming election, in like saying past elections, this is the most important one. This is the most important one. And I said last week, and I said last night, what Karen has to say tonight, nobody can tell me that this election is not the most important one, because if we lose any positions in this election, I see what Karen is talking about coming to fruition quicker.
Very much. And we have a problem, um, even so, we have a problem under the best circumstances. I've talked about the Muslim Brotherhood Terrorist Designation Act that Senator Cruz has fought for a number of years now. And President Trump, before DeSantis or Abbott did theirs, President Trump came out and did an executive order on the Muslim Brotherhood. And the problem is he exempted two organizations, two Muslim states. He exempted the Muslim Brotherhood branches coming from Turkey and coming from Qatar. Well, at least 80% of the mosques are controlled by Turkey
Oh,
in
didn't
this
know that.
country.
I did not know that.
And Qatar harbors Hamas and terrorist organizations. And by the way, has anybody else heard that Qatar is going to have an air base in Idaho? What in
No,
the heck is that about?
I did not hear about that.
Look it up. Look it up. And so Trump exempted probably the two that are the worst. And
Oh
I'm
my,
just going, what in the world is going on here?
oh my word.
I don't have an answer.
I'm
And so
speechless.
um, we've got a long way to go. And I don't know if we'll get there. Maybe Jesus will come back. That's what I'm hoping.
Me
But in the
too.
meantime, I'm talking about it. I know you wanted to keep this to an hour and we're already over, but I was wondering if, because I could talk on and on and on about it, but you don't want that. But again, we had an important loss this week, and we can't even begin to understand the depths of it until you listen to her speak. We lost Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. I sent you a recording, and she made this speech again last year at Turning Point, and nobody in the mainstream press went near this. But I think most people didn't hear it either. And if the people that are on have a few more minutes to listen to her, it's well worth your time. What this brave woman said regarding the Muslim Brotherhood. And it was astonishing to me that she, as at the time, the director of national intelligence, came right out at the Turning Point conference and spoke truth.
And
So
we will play that, and I appreciate you sending it to me,
Well,
Karen.
real quick, in YouTube, Mary says they've taken over Oak Creek in Franklin, Wisconsin. That's for sure. My old neighborhood is full of them.
Yes, those are two that were mentioned. I think also Greenfield.
And she also
I
says,
think that,
thank you, Karen.
Yeah, we've got a nice crowd in the backstage, and Rumble and YouTube got a lot of people commenting. So the things you're saying tonight are being heard by people who may have never heard this before, Karen. And I'm going to go ahead and play that Tulsi Gabbard clip before, and we'll get some feedback from you on that one before we let you go. I know that you are a very busy lady. Not much spare time.
You really need to hear her. So please hang on.
All right, here
Anybody
we go.
that wants to go to bed.
There is a freedom that is about enough. And it is the greatest near and long-term threat to both our freedom and our security, and that is the threat of Islamist ideology. It is propagated by people who not only do not believe in freedom, their fundamental ideology is antithetical to the foundation that we find in our Constitution and Bill of Rights, which is that our Creator endowed upon us inalienable rights, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, Charlie focused on this quite a bit. He talked about it in ways that very few others did because he understood this direct threat to freedom. When we look back to the attack on 9/11 that happened 24 years ago now, it changed so many of our lives. Thousands of Americans were killed by Islamist jihadis who attacked us on that day. We were confronted with the reality of the lengths that they will go to try to attack the foundations of who we are as a country. It was a day that changed my life, probably like some of you in the room. It's what motivated me to enlist in the Army, to go out and to fight and to defend and to defend our freedom and defeat those who are attacking us. But when we talk about this Islamist ideology, yes, it is the ideology that fuels terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS and Al-Shabaab and Hamas and Boko Haram and others. And they must be defeated militarily. As they continue to actively plot and try to attack us. They are a threat to our security and our safety. But this Islamist ideology is a direct threat to our freedom because at its core, it is a political ideology that seeks to create a global caliphate that governs us here in America, threatening Western civilization, governance by Sharia law, governance by what they are calling their Islamic principles. And if you fail to comply, if you fail to adhere to this ideology, if you dare to exercise your God-given right to free speech, censorship is not what we face. They will use violence or any means they deem as necessary to silence us. If we don't take action to identify this threat, to define it, to call it out for what it is, and take action to defeat it, then we will find ourselves in a place where many European countries and countries like Australia have found themselves. Countries where you can get arrested for praying silently on the street corner, as has happened in the UK. Countries where you can be arrested for putting up a social media post that someone finds offensive somewhere. The threats from this Islamist ideology come in many forms. As we approach Christmas right now in Germany, they are canceling Christmas markets because of this threat. In places like Dearborn, Michigan, and Minneapolis, Minnesota, Islamist clerics are openly pushing this Islamist ideology, trying to recruit and radicalize young people. Earlier this year, there was a conference that was held representing organizations like the Council on American Islamic Relations, also known as CARE, which issued a call to action to use American legal and political systems to implement Sharia law. This is already underway in places. This is already underway in places like Houston. This is not something that may possibly happen. It is already happening here within our borders. Paterson, New Jersey is proud to call themselves the first Muslim city. They are working to implement in their own governments these Islamic principles that are forced on people through the use of laws or violence. The bottom line is this: when we talk about the threat of Islamism, this political ideology, there is no such thing as individual freedom or liberty. As Charlie said over and over again, it is fundamentally incompatible with our nation's foundation of freedom. And at its core, when we understand that our freedom comes from God and no one else, we understand the seriousness of this Islamist ideology threat, because it means they deny that God is the one who has bestowed this right to freedom in every one of us. So what do? We as Americans have to stand proudly for freedom and understand that a free society cannot survive if it refuses to defend itself. We don't preserve freedom of speech by canceling it. We preserve free speech by exercising it, by using more of it, encouraging more speech. We protect our Constitution by ensuring loyalty to the Constitution. We protect our democratic republic by ensuring that we, the people, elect leaders who not only believe in American values, but actually live them. Leaders who are committed to ensuring that we have a government of, by, and for the people, and leaders who most importantly put freedom and the interests and well-being of the American people first in every single decision that they make.
I know that Tulsi Gabbard has a husband who is ill. I wish her the best, and I think we have lost a great patriot. Yes, I know she was a Democrat in Hawaii. You can't get elected without being a Democrat in Hawaii. But as I've watched her and listened to her, there is no way she would make a speech like that without being a true patriot. She understands the threat. And I also wonder if she was maybe moved out because of that speech. Because it's way far beyond anything I have heard, even in the Trump administration. That took a lot of courage for her to give that talk.
it certainly
That's my 2 cents worth on
it
it.
certainly did, and you know, to contrary to what a lot of people maybe in the backstage or people listening may think, because this is a conservative platform, but not all Democrats are evil people. I was a lifelong Democrat up until 2011, so uh, I've come a long way, and I'm not afraid to be called an Islamophobe, and
Absolutely not.
I'm going to educate myself, and I will stand on a street corner and scream "Jesus saves," and I don't care who's offended by it.
Well, we've been handing out bracelets, but I know that's definitely not enough.
But Karen, I don't want to keep you any. I know that you are so busy. I don't want to keep you uh, too late. Do you have any closing words for our audience? Like, what, aside from education and speaking out, what can we do to slow this down, to stop this, and save our republic?
Well, education to begin with, like I said, I've handed out hundreds of these explanatory memos, and there is a cost to that. The cost is printing them, the cost is explaining it to people and having them take the time to read it and grasp it. You can see on the cover of the explanatory memo, it says government exhibit. That means something. It was used in a federal trial successfully to convict people that were raising money for Hamas. But again, that's just the start. I think the way that I maybe um, presented this might give you an idea of how to go about it. You start with the explanatory memo in their own words, and you can end with Nihad Awad talking about what they plan on doing. This is nothing I said. Um, it's a matter of presenting people with these things and then showing them the instances of maybe what's going on down in Milwaukee right now, and in other places around the country. Tulsi talked about one out in New Jersey too, and Dearborn, Michigan, all over the country. So I think that's that's probably my best advice is use their own words, but use them in a way where you are not disparaging their First Amendment right. Whether I certainly don't believe in Allah, I believe that Jesus Christ is Lord. That's my faith. I shouldn't have to die for it. But if Sharia takes over, that is something that would put me in the crosshairs of an executioner. And nobody in this country should be in that position, even if you believe in, you know, whatever your faith is. Um, that is what the founders set up. They based it on, I believe they based it on Christianity. Why do I say that? Because our God, my God, is a God that basically said, believe in me or reject me. Um, Basically, we got choice. That came out of the Bible. That doesn't come out of Sharia law. You don't get a choice. So as you talk to people, keep that in mind. Is that we each have the ability to receive or reject Jesus as our Lord and Savior. We won't have that under Sharia because that is basically you accept Allah as your God or you die. Pretty simple.
It is quite simple. Well, Karen, I want to thank you so much, and on behalf of all the people in the backstage and all the people listening, thank you so much for joining us tonight and bringing this to our attention. And you are welcome to come back. I know that you said you could talk about this all night, and you are welcome to come back anytime you want,
Absolutely.
and continue this education for we the people, because really, like you said, that's what it's all about. It's about education, and uh, I can't thank you enough. You're a dear friend, and I've known you for 5 years, and I feel bad that I didn't know that you had been talking about this for a decade or longer until I saw you not long ago. So uh, bad on me,
Yeah.
and but I'm glad that I found out and was able to begin the education process for myself.
hmm could I say one more thing that just popped into my head, and you reminded me of it because I mentioned it when we talked about it, and or when I talked about it at our event, and that is that the founders understood what they were up against. Whether you believe it or not, the founders fought against um, an organization very much like the Muslim Brotherhood 250 years ago and more. In fact, Thomas Jefferson, when he became president, I think it was 1801 or 2 or something like that, he ended up creating the Marine Corps. And he ended up creating that because our shipping in the Mediterranean was being, we were being, it was being, our ships were being attacked by the Barbary pirates, which were in fact Muslims who believed they had a right to convert people and take people as slaves. And very interesting reading if you can find that. But I don't have an author that comes to mind. But Thomas Jefferson and the rest of the founders very much understood the threat. And yes, I saw somebody just mention the Ottoman Empire, and I could talk about that for a long time, but I won't. So with that, thank you very much for having me, and best of luck to each of you, and thank you for letting me talk for an hour.
Oh, absolutely. And again,
Absolutely.
you're welcome to come back anytime. Talk about anything. I know that
Come back and talk
you
about
have
the Ottoman Empire.
you have so many irons in the fire, Karen, and anytime you need a platform to give me a call and say I need to come on and talk about X, Y, or Z, or all
Absolutely.
three of them, we love
Okay,
having you.
well,
And
yeah, thank you very much.
all right, and you are welcome to hang around all night if you want. But I know that you're very busy, so there's no obligation for you to hang around.
Well, if
But
anybody had any questions, I would take a couple of questions before I go, but
okay,
if not,
well,
that's fine too.
if you want to hang around for a little bit, you can. I'm sure there are people that have either comments or questions. Uh, and with that, folks, we're gonna shut her down for the night.
Yep.
I guess don't be afraid of being called an Islamophobe.
Well, I said, I think it was on Sunday or about a week ago. I don't care what people call me because I know one person that matters to me, and that's my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and what He thinks of me. That's all that matters. So call me any name you want. I don't care.
And last night, Red, we talked about Harry Wade and his fight last night,
Yes.
and I referenced Ben Franklin when he came out and they said, "What kind of government do we have?" And he said,
A republic.
they asked him, "Do we have a monarchy or do we have a republic?" And he said,
a mon or
"A,
a,
re-
monarchy.
a
A
republic
republic if you
if we
can
can keep it." And that's what Harry took on, because Harry's fighting to save our republic. And now
And he's not done.
tonight's show really put an emphasis on what we all have to do
Absolutely.
to save our republic, because this goes beyond. Obviously, we have to fix our elections, but there's so much more. This is deep. This one runs
Absolutely.
deep, and we don't want places like Dearborn or the city in Texas. You heard Tulsi Gabbard talk about other cities. We can't have it. We have to put a stop to it.
Absolutely.
And man, we had a great guest tonight, Red.
An amazing guest.
And
She's always amazing to listen to,
and
but
she's an incredible woman.
we needed it right now.
Going back to when we met Karen in 2021. She's an incredible fighter for all things that are right, and I love her and Dean to death, and I'm honored to call them a friend, and
Absolutely.
thankful that they came on, that Karen came on the show. Just a reminder, folks, if you want a copy of the explanatory memorandum, email me at screechowlscott@gmail.com. I can send you this, that you can print it off, all the copies you want, and hand them out.
Absolutely.
And we can also
then the videos, the two
we can
videos.
also provide the videos of Nahad Awad.
Yep.
That was just from a year ago. So
writing them down.
we will get those out to anybody who wants them. With that, Red, we're off tomorrow night.
Yep,
Our
my
grandson's graduating from high school. Our
school.
first grandson
Yep.
graduating from high school. So we'll be ringing cowbells or tooting horns, whatever we're going to do.
Ringing the freedom bell. The Timothy Rantham freedom bell that we have.
And we will return next week, but AJ is going to be on tomorrow night. AJ is going to do back-to-back shows this week. Tomorrow it's Words Really Do Matter. I don't know what the topic is for Friday, but he'll talk about that tomorrow. Join him tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central, like all shows on Ripon Rabbit Hole.
And don't forget, Sundays at 10:30, in the backstage only, not broadcast, is Two or More Gathering.
Great way to start your Sunday if you don't have a church. Great fellowship and
It's
Bible
amazing.
study, and it's a great way to kick off your week. With that, Red, we're going to stop wasting people's time because
We have a republic to save.
have a good night, folks. Hang around in the backstage. If you're over on Rumble or YouTube and you have a question for Karen, come on
Hop
over
on
to
over.
riponrabbithole.com, the VIP backstage. Karen's going to hang around for just a minute. Have a good night, folks.